So I'm just going to say this up front, and I'm just going to spoil the entire review, but you should stick around to hear the details of it all. But Split Fiction is one of the greatest games that has been made in a very, very long time. It has blown my mind into absolute oblivion to the fact that, and just the overall, I guess, premise of the game that is just, it just feels so good. Like just the developers had full creative freedom. They were able to do whatever they wanted with the game. And it felt like they had the time of their life making this game. Welcome, my friends, to my review, my honest review of Split Fiction. Now, I do want to say, and I have to say up front, that EA did provide me with a code of this game, but that's pretty much it. It was just to kind of bring you guys some gameplay. I'm under no obligation to say anything one way or the other. I'm not getting paid for this. I don't have to say anything nice. And if you've been around my channel long enough, you know that, if I have critiques and criticisms, I'm going to give them. But this is one game that I'll be honest with you guys, I don't know that I'm going to have many criticisms to say about this game, because through and through, this game was an absolute masterpiece. Now, I played with my good friend Hollow. We played It Takes Two when that came out, from the same company. I believe the way that you pronounce the developer company is Hazelight, I believe. And this just makes great games. Before It Takes Two, they made another game called A Way Out, another game before that called Brothers. They just make really good games they're specifically co-op, so you can only play them 2-player. It's so good. It's so good. The gameplay is fantastic. I had the time of my life. When I played It Takes Two with my good friend Hollow, and again, we're doing this with, this game, Split Fiction. And again, you can see gameplay up on my channel if you want to see actual gameplay of us playing through it. But when we played It Takes Two, and now this, it just, to me, it felt like the kind of game that even if we're not on a couch, playing side by side, it kind of felt like that virtually. It kind of reminded me of when I was a kid, and when I would just be kind of sitting on the floor at a friend's house, and we have a controller each, playing like GameCube or N64, whatever it was back in the day. There's a variety of different consoles, and it just felt like classic, good, just genuine, wholesome fun. And this is what this game does. It is so good. As someone who's kind of, and this is getting a little bit into some, different territory, but just as a quick note, as someone who's kind of tired of sort of narratives that are agenda driven, for the most part, this game didn't really feel like that. It just felt like it was a good story. It just felt kind of mostly grounded, and just mostly, I chuckle a bit because, when I say grounded, the story is grounded, but the gameplay is just all over the place in the best way possible, and it is so stinking good. Now, yes, it's only 2 players, but you get a friend pass, I believe, when you actually jump into this game. Now, obviously, both me and Hollow, we had a code each, especially because we're playing the game before it was officially released. But if you buy a game, I believe that's how it would work, is you would have a friend pass that you can get a friend in with you and whatnot. Now, the game doesn't come with friends, unfortunately, but they do have a Discord if you want to check that out. You can use my Discord if you want, but they also have their own Discord, as the company, the developers, Hazelight. So you can find friends in there as well, or you can find friends down in the comments below in this video, whatever works for you guys. But anyways, let me explain this game, because it is insane. So I can't spoil too much of the story, but the premise is basically that you're these 2 different characters that are trying to get their stories published, and you're essentially living out the stories that are in the minds of these 2 characters, and you're kind of going back and forth between the 2. And there's a lot of kind of, it's split fiction. That's kind of the idea. And so one character, their story is kind of all focused on more science fiction. The other one is more kind of fantasy. And so you're going to have like a wide variety of different kinds of, sort of worlds in those kind of 2 genres, if you will. Now, what's really cool is that the game is 100% its own thing, but there's all these different nods to different games. Like as me and Hollow were playing through it, we're thinking like, oh, this reminds us of this game, and it was 100% like this is like definitely a nod to this. For example, there's one mission called Final Dawn, and obviously if you're much of a Halo nerd, you know that that's a nod to Halo, right? And there's different things like that, right? There's going to be mechanics. There's going to be different areas. They're going to be like, it's going to remind you of different games. You're gonna be like, oh, that reminds me of this game. And that's the crazy thing, is like, it doesn't feel like they're trying to like replicate all these different games. It just feels like they're trying to give like a little nod to a bunch of different games that's going to remind you of, throughout the history. Like there's been times, I'll give you an example. I'm not gonna tell you what they are for spoiler's sake, but I'll give you just a list of games that popped in my head as I was playing through this. For example, Halo came to mind. The Legend of Zelda, like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, those games as far back as then came in mind. You know, things like I forgot what it's called. I think it was like Space Invaders or whatever. You know, where it's like there's like kind of like a spaceship and you're moving around. You got to shoot things. That came to mind at some point. You know, things like Cuphead came to mind. Like Fall Guys. Like there's so many different games that this game made me think of. And yet this game feels 100% unique in and of its like itself. And it's wild. And as you're going through these different main levels, you're going to find these kind of like glowing orbs that are going to be sort of like side stories, I guess you could say. But the side stories are sometimes like, sometimes they feel like so individually memorable in their own right. I mean, you actually seen some of them in the trailer, so this is not really spoilery. For example, there's one where you see like a clip where you're kind of like a sausage or whatever. And you're like, what's up with that? You get to play as a sausage. And there's a whole thing to that. It's just hilarious. This game, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say this, there was points through me and Hollow's playthrough where I laughed so hard, and I'm not exaggerating. I had tears running down my face, and I actually had to grab a tissue to wipe the tears because I just couldn't. I kept telling him like, "Yo, I can't see the screen. I can't see," because my eyes were just watering. I was just so like lost in just the hilarity of how funny a moment was. And it's so good. The gameplay mechanics, just gameplay mechanics. And I'm like, yo, this reminds me of mini games from Super Mario Party, like even the most recent Mario Party. So like there's nods to so many different genres of games and so many different kinds of games. And it's like, it's small things that like, sometimes it's not even a big thing. There's like a little thing and you're like, oh, okay, that reminds me of this. I've seen this before. I've played something similar. And again, there's familiarity, but it's completely its own thing. And these two characters are going through these stories, and, you know, you kind of start to learn a little bit more about these characters individually. And actually, as you progress through the game, their stories run way deeper than you actually expect. And you know, as crazy as this game is in all of these other ways, it just gives you this sort of story that hooks you at the same time, and you feel invested in these characters and their stories, which is really, really cool. And again, you're not going through these worlds for no purpose. There's a whole synopsis behind it that I don't want to spoil. But you're trying to get through these worlds, and you're trying to stop, let's say, a certain kind of villain. Okay. So there is a premise to it. It's not just completely random. But as you're going through these, again, you got to work cooperatively to get through all these different kinds of puzzles. I mean, the puzzles are just above and beyond anything that I can even start to explain. Again, I don't want to spoil things, but, you know, for example, you know, it could be like, this is a very small example, but let's say like, you know, again, a split screen, one character has one certain kind of ability, the other character has another kind of ability. One ability can, let's say, melt metal off of a certain object. And then the other character they have the ability to basically, like, you know, like slam into objects. So you melt, let's say like one character melts the metal off of an object and the other character slams into it to basically solve a certain kind of puzzle. Again, I know that's very vague, but I'm being very careful not to spoil any sort of, you know, any specifics about the game. If you want to see actual like full gameplay, like I said, I'm gonna have gameplay up on my channel you guys could check out. Right now at the time of recording this, I currently have the first like 3.5 hours, but I will have the entire game. And it's again, I cannot recommend this highly enough. It's such a great game. The score of the music is so good. It's music is one thing that I always pay attention to, especially, you know, you can probably see behind me, I got, you know, instrument stuff. I love music. I'm sure a lot of you guys do too, right? I pay attention a lot to the music, and the score is really good. It just really set the tone in the different kind of story beats. Again, there's sometimes it's like things are a little bit more emotional and a little bit more serious. And then it's just other times everything's just super, you know, action packed. I mean, so much of this game was just action, nonstop action. You go from one thing to the other, and then different kind of mechanics and different kinds of ways to get through these different levels, right? And they're constantly switching up things like that. But the thing is, it's like, that sounds overwhelming when I say it like that, but it's not. Like, the game feels fluid and it feels all kind of sort of cohesive. but yeah, they're introducing different kinds of ways to get through different kind of parts and stuff. And you really got to work as a team to kind of get through these puzzles. Again, it's just so well done. The worlds, the puzzles, they're genius. There were so many times where we were just like, wow, I just cannot believe that this is like happening, or this is how, you know, how did they pull this off? How on earth did they pull it? Like, it's just so fluid. And the ending, I believe the devs had said that the ending is like unlike anything you've ever seen before. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I can assure you that the ending is nothing like you've ever seen before. And it will melt your brain into oblivion with how insane the ending is, with just like in terms of gameplay, in terms of like things that they did. Again, I can't get into specifics without being spoilery, but it is seriously impressive. This game constantly impressed me constantly. That I kept saying, wow, this game is insane. And again, all I can keep getting back to is this game feels like, you know, something that I've said a lot on my channel is that nowadays it feels like devs are just not given enough creative freedom. It's too much, you know, there's too much of a business oriented kind of focus, and then that loses the creativity and the fun aspect with a lot of games nowadays. Not the case with this game. This game feels like the devs were given free reign for creativity, and the devs just went off the wall with just having the time of their lives making this game. And that translates perfectly to the player, because then the player experiences that, and the player has the time of their lives experiencing these games, and it's constant surprises. That's why I'm very careful not to say anything too spoilery, because I don't want to ruin the surprises, because I want you guys to be able to play this game, go through it, and see all the surprises as you go along. And it's progressive too. As you go through the game, it gets like bigger and crazier. And it's just like, again, if you're playing this game, if you see those side stories, especially, don't miss those. Those are some of the funniest ones and most crazy like ideas. And it's just, again, the whole concept is like, these are all different story ideas that these two characters have in their heads, and that you're kind of living out. Again, I don't want to kind of explain too much because I don't want to spoil anything, but again, the visuals are vibrant, they're colorful, they're stunning, they're gorgeous. The gameplay is constantly like, it never stays the same. There's the base foundation gameplay, but then there's always different things that kind of like, again, you know, things go from 3D to 2D, for example, right? Things go from like, you know, side scrolling to kind of like up and down. Like, it's so weird. And then it mix and matches. Sometimes one character on screen, sometimes the split screen will mesh into a full screen, and for different reasons. And sometimes, you know, one character will be kind of like, it's like they're standing on top, moving around on one kind of like dimension, and then the other character is kind of be like, they're gonna move like, so one character is moving on top and one character is moving kind of like side scrolling. It's weird. I don't know how to even explain it, but it works so perfectly. And then you got to solve these puzzles together, and the puzzles are like, you know, they make you think things through as a team, but they're not so hard that you feel like you're going to be stuck there for, you know, forever. Like, you're going to be like, man, I don't know what to do, right? Like, there's sometimes like you have to think things through, like we're like, okay, how do we get through this? But I don't think it's anything that you're gonna get like super stuck on. It's not like, you know, puzzles are, you're gonna be like, wow, yeah, I have no idea what to do. You know, you might say that for like a minute or two, but it'll come to you. It'll click, right? It'll click. So it's just enough of a challenge to make it fun, but not so much of a challenge where you're like, you get frustrated over it either. Do you know what I mean? It's a perfect balance. Guys, listen, this game, I'm ranting enough. This game is such a masterpiece, you know, from the score, the music is so good. The visuals are beautiful. The story captivates you. You know, it's like, you know, it's not, again, I'm not saying that the main story is the craziest, most in-depth story, but it's enough to be super interesting, and to make you want to learn more about these characters, and like, you know, what's up with these characters? Why are they the way they are? And so the characters are interesting. The story is interesting. The gameplay is insane, unlike anything that I've ever played in my life. It is so good. It mixes and matches and meshes and you know, combines all these different kind of gameplay elements from all these different kind of games. Again, it feels like these devs have so much influence from the game industry, you know, from like playing different games themselves, and they just wanted to make like this sort of culmination of games that they love. But again, nothing feels like other games. It just feels like nods and inspiration, which is the perfect, you know, mesh of it. So like I said, gameplay is beautiful. Gameplay is fluid, and it's just, you know, really great. Puzzles are fantastic. You know, the visuals are gorgeous. The music is really good, sets the tone, and it just makes sense as you go through it. And the game is great. It's a masterpiece. In terms of how long it took us to beat, I want to say like maybe somewhere between 10 and 15 hours. I'm not 100% sure. You know, obviously you could take your time. You know, we kind of play things a little quickly, but we also take our time. We're like, wow, look at this area. And the areas are so cool. They're so cool. You know, between the science fiction, different kinds of areas there, and in the fantasy worlds. I mean, it's just so cool. So listen, what do I rate this game? Well, it's a masterpiece. And for that reason alone, I have to give this game a perfect 10 out of 10. Yeah, you know, there's like any game, right? No game is necessarily perfect in the sense where like nothing could be improved upon, but it's hard to find critiques to give this game. And this game to me is just a masterpiece. It's a 10 out of 10. It's a must play, and it's the most fun I've had with a game in a very, very long time. It feels like a breath of fresh air. And like I said, it just feels like the devs were given full creative freedom to just be as creative as they wanted to be. And it just translates so well to the players and to the controller in your hands. So to me, this is a highly recommended game that I would say you'd be crazy to not play this as a gamer. I say that it's a strong game of the year contender. I mean, the year's just started. We don't know what other games are going to be coming out this year, but it's a strong contender. It is so far probably my game of the year because it is so fun and so good. So again, guys, play it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, but I wanted to be as vague with this, as possible, not, you know, to be too spoilery, but man, it's a good game, and I cannot wait to see what this studio does in the future, because they keep one-upping themselves, man. It's crazy. I don't know where they go from here. It's like, it's mind-blowing, just the creative minds behind this game. It's crazy. So thanks for watching. Stick around for more. Leave a like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys soon. Another one. Tell them friends. Game on. Catch you guys later.
Hey you! What are you doing? Join the Skeleton Army! Do it today! Don't wait till tomorrow, because tomorrow might never come. The Earth is gonna fade, that's inevitable. The next second of your life's not even promised, so you better think about where you're going, and you might as well just join the Skeleton Army. Plus, we do kind of like you a little bit, so it'd be nice to see you around here. But if you don't want to, hey, your loss. See you later!